What would happen if someone who is one bad day away from potentially committing some very criminal activities with that box cutter, or potentially starting fires, or honestly, way worse? Instead of getting to the point of blowing up, instead they got a girlfriend. What would happen? Well, that's what this anime basically is. You have this MC who is very much into chuny delusions, but those chuny delusions are psychopathic. It's thinking about murdering and cutting up people. Literally in the synopsis of this show, it's about how he wants to kill the pretty girl Yamada. And if that ain't one of the craziest intro hooks to a romance anime, I don't know what is. But men are very simple creatures. You can have the most psychotic of takes, whether you read it online or witness it in person when you go throughout your school life. And if you give them a girlfriend or a female that at least shows them interest, goddamn do they become functioning members of society, and that's why this show is so goddamn brilliant. This show is wholesome. It gets presented online as this very wholesome, fluffy show with some great characters, and that is 100% true. But I feel like sometimes with the way shows get explained to people, you know what, like there's a reason it took me so long to fully dive into this show, because I'll be honest, I didn't read the synopsis fully. You know what, I just was going off of the word of mouth, and well, technically the word of mouth was true. I mean, there was a lot of wholesome, cute shows this year. It's very easy for me to say, well, if season 2's coming next year, then I'll just wait for season 2 to come around. And while I don't necessarily regret waiting to watch this show in full, at the same time, I just kind of wish maybe the presentation of the show was a little different with how people discuss it. So let me say, if you've been on the edge of should you watch The Dangers in My Heart, oh absolutely you should. Ichikawa, the main character, he is a wild, socially awkward bundle of a mess, but the development this kid goes through and how he opens up and becomes a more functioning member of society. Granted, these kids are like 13, 14, right? They're not older, they're not like about to enter the workforce or anything, but still, that's a very interesting age range where, you know, a lot of shit's changing in your body, and honestly, reading those murderous books and carrying around a box cutter pretending to want to cut people up is pretty psychotic behavior, even if you're just saying it's all pretend. How many criminals in our own world just, you know, start off, it's all pretend in their mind, and then they commit it? Well, yes, this anime is never going to go in the direction he'll ever snap and actually shank a fool. It's a pretty crazy hook going from, I'm gonna cut this bitch, to actually, I think I might love her. And it's just amazing to see what a normal, comforting connection can do to someone, and how he goes from absolutely hating himself, thinking he's an outcast, to becoming a functioning member of this school, and just watching her just absolutely love this kid through and through. You should watch this show. It is fucking amazing. Now, I do have full live reactions to all 12 of these episodes. We will be covering it both here on Patreon and YouTube going forward with season 2. But if you would like to see my full thoughts, it is over there. I watched it over the course of 3 days. I did 4 episodes a day. And man, this was one of the easiest binges I've had in a long time. Sometimes when I'm trying to play catch up because I'm like, oh shit, less than a week away, new show's about to kick off, I kind of feel myself getting burnt out. But I power through because I know I gotta get caught up. This was easy, man. I watched the first 2 episodes and I'm like, late at night, coffee's gone, doesn't matter. I'm ready for 3 and 4. This was a fantastic show. And I think there's so many little points to it that really make it spark and just kind of shine and sparkle. But it's the fact that the main pairing here is very different. And I think that intro hook of being like, I'm gonna cut her, even if it's all pretend in his head. The fact that this man unironically said that out loud, and like, I mean, he was playing with the box cutter, and like, yes, he does give her the box cutter and saying, hey, you know, this will be easier for you to cut your paper and this and that, but still, it's a pretty crazy hook. And I honestly thought I had the wrong subtitles. I thought I was watching the wrong anime at first. I'm like, mofos be telling me this is wholesome, and he's gonna shank a bitch? Like, what's going on here? But it's a good way to hook you in, because you don't see that shit too often in romance anime, especially with 13 or 14-year-old kids. But the thing is around, I'd say, episode 4 onwards, that's when the psychotic stuff kind of gets pushed away. Yeah, he still likes the books and stuff, but he doesn't really have those psycho behaviors in his head anymore, because he's now more, like, friendly, and even if for a little bit he kind of pushes back on the idea that he is friends with Yamada, the idea is she keeps continuously, you know, breaking him out of his shell. And I love the idea that despite not having any internal monologue from Yamada, the love interest MC, the fact that we still 100% know how she feels, at least like, maybe not 100%, because there was a couple of scenes where even I was thrown off guard. I'm like, I don't know how she's feeling. But at least 90-95% of the time. And the way they do this is by, there's some obvious visual cues, character's flustered or maybe a little stammering, shivering, that's a pretty obvious visual clue unless you're the character in question who has no relationship experience and thinks, oh, she just does this for everyone. But there is so many subtle details with the body animation where she just is giving out so much emotion without having to go inside her head to read her mind. It's so obvious, and I love how this anime is like the perfect representation of why guys are so stupid. And as a guy myself, I say this with 100% confidence, we're idiots. We are so stupid. Now, some guys get over it quicker than others. Some guys never get over it. There's grown-ass adults who are 40, 50, 60 who still don't know how to read emotions or very obvious signs. But at one point or another, we all go through it, and like I said, we all go through it differently. For me, it was like after college where I started to understand human emotions to the point where I was like, man, I was just completely oblivious to obvious signs, huh? But this kid, man, he will say some things, and I love how almost immediately he'll either correct himself or someone around him will say something and he's like, oh wait, maybe that was a stupid thing to say. Or he'll just honestly just say things out loud that I'm like, I'm literally criticizing out loud, like, how can you be so stupid? And then he'll pretty much say the same thing, and I'm like, you know what? Props to this kid, because honestly, I wasn't expecting to like him that much when his intro hook is, I'm gonna shank a fool. And I'm like, this is fantastic, because the whole idea is that you have a pretty wild side cast. Like, the male side cast that he's not really friends with, but kind of are there, are just perverted beyond belief. Her friend group is a lot more interesting, and I think it helps because she legitimately wants to be friends with them. But like, there's so many like little moments that like, you can be like, I'm about to pull my hair out, why the hell are they talking like this? Like, what am I witnessing? There's a couple of fools that just, one guy is an absolute pervert. He was grabbing her saying, give me your line number, and then at one point he even kind of like stalks our boy for it. There's some, questionable scenes where I'm just like, oh man, what the hell's going on in this school? But at the end of the day, they actually do feel their age. Like, they're at this point where a lot of things are changing for them, but most importantly, like, they never make it feel like they're more mature than they should be for their age, but at the same time, certain characters definitely have a bit more maturity, whether that's just because of different upbringings or just because, naturally some kids are a little more ahead of their ages than others. There's only one major issue about The Dangers in My Heart, and it's what happens with a character named Hara. Now, I'm saying this dead ass serious. They call this girl fat. Like, they legitimately, there's a character in this show who looks like that one kid from Eminence in Shadow who's all like horny around Sid. I think his name's Potato or something, I don't remember. But either way, he's all about BBWs apparently. And they look at her being like she's fat as hell and she constantly has self-confidence issues. And I'm glad they have something like this because you don't see it a whole lot, especially for kids their age. But she is legitimately not fat. And there was this scene that I edited because I knew it. Every time I looked at Yamada, I looked at her and I'm like, how in the hell are they calling her fat when Yamada's the same goddamn weight, just a foot taller? And then I did this. I stretched her down just a little bit and she's literally the same width. And I just, she is heavier than the other girls around her. But the only thing that makes her quote-unquote fat in the eyes of this school is that she's just a foot shorter than what her weight would naturally proportion correctly. And it's just insane because so many girls, hell, even guys go through it too, but like the idea of like this weight issue and like they're acting like she's super obese and I'm like, bro, the only one who's like really hyping her up is the dude who's like infatuated by BBWs, and that's not what this kid needs to hear. Like, she's gonna become anorexic or something. And it's just like, it was a really good point, but it drove me insane that they actually thought she was fat because every time I looked at her, I'm like, she's literally Yamada if she was a foot taller or Yamada was a foot shorter. And I'm like, these crazy kids. But the best part of this show was the development between the main two. And we don't get to a relationship, we don't get to a kiss, but I think we get to something a bit better. We have a kid who really doesn't like himself, he feels at a place, he tried to fit in, did really well with sports and stuff, but then eventually just gave up and just felt like an outcast. And over the course of the show, with the help of the sister was awesome, wing woman, #1 sister of the year in my opinion, she was just great. You have the different friends and stuff, but most importantly, you have moments where you slowly see him more excited to go to school, and by the end of episode 12 he fully admits that it's thanks to her that he's enjoying school now. And I think that's more impressive than a kiss or anything because she knows this kid has no confidence and she knows that around her he does light up more than he used to, and I love seeing moments like those. And now going into season 2, we can really see that there's going to be this steady progression because some characters and some people in general, they're never going to fully stop hating themselves. And I really hate the idea that people say you have to love yourself in order to be in a relationship. That's absolutely incorrect. You can absolutely 100% love someone and feel shitty about yourself and just give in to them, because if they love you, they'll help pick you back up. Well, it's true, you do have to have a little self-confidence, which is why it's important for him to develop as he has. But he very well could be a character that always has some doubts, but you can tell that Yamada is the type of character that will pick him up and give him that confidence when he feels down about himself. And we've seen in this show, in season 1, when he realized he hurt her feelings after thinking she just did this for everyone, he immediately embraced her, and that's the type of relationship that you feel confident in when watching an anime. And yeah, this was a pretty damn amazing show. I highly recommend it. I'm excited for season 2, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Let me know what you thought of season 1 and what you're hoping to see with season 2 down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're around here, of course ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more to the channel. And like I mentioned, we have full live reactions to every single episode of season 1. We will be covering season 2 over there as well. And I also give video shoutouts and other fun perks as well, so consider supporting if you so wish. So until next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.